Hello and a very warm welcome to Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And our guest today is one of Germany's most controversial educationalists, a man who believes that what German kids need most of all is a good dose of discipline, order and authority. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to Bernhard Bueb. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. Yes. Now, with Bernhard Bueb, we're going to be talking education, what some see as the crisis in the education system here in Germany, and focusing on the following topics. You heard me use the C word there, the word crisis. Is there a crisis in German education?
There's a crisis, but it's people don't see that there's a crisis, or they have a different interpretation of the crisis. My interpretation is that in Germany, the teacher is not in the middle of the interest. We believe in structures, in organizations, and we change organizations, we change the types of school, the way of teaching, but we don't change the person of the teacher, the way he is educated and the way he should teach. And the main thing is that teachers are not they are not being led. There's no leadership in schools. That headmasters are kings without
subjects.
No, without power.
Without power. Okay.
And because a German headmaster is not like a king in a British school. I mainly know British private schools, boarding schools, and there the headmasters are really little kings.
Okay. The key word there, the key word that I was hearing from what you said was leadership. We're going to be talking about that very shortly. Before we talk more, let's take a closer look at the ideas set down by Bernhard Bueb. We talked about it already. Leadership, I think, is going to be possibly the key word in our discussion. But there's a problem there. In German, the word for leader is...
Führer, yes. And
it's a big problem.
That's a big problem. That's why Germans tend to avoid the word Führung, the word Führung, and they change it to leadership. And, well, they like...
imported the English word.
Yes.
It sounds more benign than any reference to Adolf Hitler.
Well, yes, but it's in the economy they say führen is a word very much used in economy. But in school, it's still taboo. It's still not used. You
want that to change?
I want to change because I think that the good old notions like Führung, Discipline, Autorität, and so on.
1 second, let's so leadership, discipline, authority.
Authority should be reintroduced into the German language. And
is there one word missing there? If you say authority, if you say leadership, if you say discipline, punishment?
Punishment too, yes. In Germany, they tend to talk of consequences instead of punishment, which is, I think, a different thing. But this is our history. We have to live up with our history. Very difficult, and but it has consequences for the practice because when people no longer speak of discipline, they don't behave disciplined. Because, well, for British or Anglo-Saxon people, they won't understand this discussion because discipline, authority, leadership is it's everyday life.
I don't know. I'm not sure that the same debates aren't going on in other countries as well. Because one impression I have is that what you are sort of wrestling with the 60s. You think the 60s was a time where things went horribly wrong in Germany. That's a widely held view in the States, in Britain, in many countries. Is that the problem as you see it?
That's true because the 60s were again they argued against the Nazi time, against the history of the Hitler time. And this was a good deed. This was
a positive aspect of what was going on.
But they went too far. And they, and they said that discipline is a horror anyway.
They became anti-authoritarian. I have a quote from you. Kids got used to arguing about everything.
Yes, this is discussing, you know, in German families, everything is every day 30 times discussed, you know. Instead of telling the children, well, you must see this is the right way, and you can argue 2-3 times, and then it should be done.
You know, my impression, though, I mean, I am a parent here in Germany. I have 2 kids going to a German school.
Yes, yeah.
Every time I go to a parents' evening, everybody is saying, we want more discipline, we want the children to be put under a little bit more pressure, to be given clearer goals. I'm not sure that what you're saying is a revolution anymore.
No, that's why my book was such a success, you know, because most people in parents or teachers agree with me. It's the educationalists.
Why isn't it changing?
Who is
if everybody agrees with you, if the parents agree, why and your book is selling so?
They are going to change.
They're going to change.
Yes, and there appeared a lot of books on discipline after my book.
Okay.
And people are changing, and parents and teachers are encouraged, you know, to demand more discipline of the children.
Okay, so maybe a sea change in German education. Yeah?
Yes, yes.
You once said of yourself you said you were a good head teacher but not a good teacher. Just give me in one sentence, why weren't you a good teacher?
I think I was a little bit boring. And this is the worst sin for a teacher, is to be boring.
Indeed, indeed. It's really true. One thing you hear from school kids these days is the cry, it's boring. Everything, it sometimes seems, is boring. Even the way people sometimes speak the word is boring. But let's find out now about one teacher who says there's no such thing as boring. Bernhard Bueb was just telling me that he has actually met Herr Sturm a couple of years ago. You say he's a good teacher, he's getting it right.
He's a good teacher because he's demanding.
He's demanding of his pupils.
Of the pupils, yes, he demands a lot, and that's what you could hear by the kids. That was positive. And the game is important in his instruction, also in science. And you could see it from the way he teaches.
Okay, so he's a demanding teacher, he's a passionate teacher, he has a lot of good ideas. There are always going to be teachers like that, but are there enough teachers like that to go around?
No, there are too many teachers who become teachers because they don't know anything, they don't know what to do when they are finished school, and because the civil servant, the teachers in Germany are civil servant.
Which has great tenure. Yeah.
Tenure
all
and
sorts of security. That's very attractive.
And they love it, and they become teachers. They become teachers because they love security.
Okay, and then the accusation is they become bureaucrats rather than teachers.
That's it. That's the problem. And the education of teachers it should be reformed.
Okay. We're not just talking here about sort of philosophy and ideas and ideologies. We're actually talking about resources. There simply aren't enough. Germany's a rich country, possibly the richest country in Europe. Why aren't there more resources going into education? I simply don't understand that.
Could you ask an easier question? This is a scandal. It's a catastrophe.
But you're at the centre of what's going on in Germany, or you have been at the centre. You're an expert. You've met Chancellor Merkel and talked about these things. Why isn't it happening?
Oh, she's all for that, but she has nothing to say in education, because education is a question of the Länder, of the countries. And
so the federal states.
The federal states.
That's their territory.
Yes, and she, as Chancellor, has nothing to command in education. That's and she's suffering a lot from that.
But this is not good enough, is it? I mean, let me go back to my own kids, and it's very typical for what you read in the German media when you talk to other parents here in Germany. My kids are going to what is described as one of the best schools in Berlin, but the teachers are, a third of the time, the teachers are ill. There's not a replacement teacher. All of the time, there's no toilet paper on the toilet.
Yeah. I think it's true what you say, that the situation in German schools is, you can't understand in this rich country that this happens. And but my theory is, or my experience, that headmasters are not leading the teachers. And headmasters are administrators. And that's the definition of their job in Germany. And so they do their job as is defined. And they should change into leaders. And teachers should have the right to be led.
Okay.
And this should change in Germany.
So an upgrading of the role of the head teachers, an upgrading of the role of teachers. Let's just talk about one thing that I think a lot of people are worried about, is the whole notion that you might have a good teacher in a good classroom even, but you've got 32, 35 kids sitting in front of them, all on a diet of 2, 3, 4 hours of TV, internet.
Yeah,
they haven't got a chance, have they?
No, they haven't got. I believe in that kids should go to school the whole day.
Which doesn't happen in Germany.
It doesn't happen
Just
at all.
What does happen in Germany? Just explain for us.
There are some, schools like Salem, of course.
Okay,
but
boarding school you were at.
Yeah, but there are some German schools who practice this, but very few. Generally, the kids and teachers leave school at 1 o'clock and will meet again the next morning. And I believe that it would be the biggest change when teachers meet children, yes, not only in lessons, but playing with them, for instance, sports or
there's
theater.
Not enough sport at German schools.
No, not.
For sure.
There's you have all those torture things, you know what we call Reck und Barren.
Exactly, all the traditional gymnastics.
Genau, and not enough games, and not enough theater, not enough music, and so on.
Okay.
And this should be yes. And children need communities, you know. But not only class communities, but communities...
a place they can identify with.
Good, yes. And this could take place in the afternoon.
Okay. So you're calling for a conservative revolution in many ways in German education. Are you one of the conservatives, I don't mean politically conservative, somebody with maybe a conservative worldview? Are you somebody who feels that the German language is under threat? Quick answer, yes or no? Yes. We'll talk about it very shortly. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is that Germany's conservative Christian Democrat Party, and that's the party of Chancellor Angela Merkel, recently passed a motion calling for a new clause to be added to the constitution. It reads, "The language of the Federal Republic shall be German." It's a move that has sparked considerable debate and left some people asking, what is German anyway? Bernhard Bueb, one German newspaper wrote recently, "Our language is on the defensive." Is that true?
I agree. That's true. And I have an interpretation of that. Our German identity is not strong enough, not so strong as the British or the American.
Why not?
That's
history.
Our history.
Again.
And we are a very young nation. 1870 was the first time that we became a nation.
When people say the language is under threat, I'm still not sure that I understand what it's under threat from. I presume you're going to say English.
That's true. Yes. The Germans love the English language, and perhaps some would like to speak English every day.
Give me some examples. I mean, I'm not sure that this isn't a bit of a cliche. I hear occasional English words. Is it really such a widespread thing? Is it something that irritates you as a person?
I have a book with about 5,000 English expressions that became normal in German. And many people, yes, there are also Anglicism. For instance,
all sorts of anglicised phrases and notions,
in
terms.
German, that you know. It's not a German phrase, but it's translated from English.
So you want rules, you want laws, you want to clamp down on this, you want to make it illegal?
No, that's not the way. We should start in schools and try. We should play a lot of theater in schools. That's the best way to learn German and to estimate the German language and to feel at home in the German language. The education is the way.
Education is the way. I've got we just had in that report Bastian Sick. He's one of the real experts on the German language here in Germany. He's very prominent. Here's his quote: "If there's anyone in Germany who should be held accountable for the decline in language skills, it is us, the Germans, ourselves, particularly our politicians. We've pared the teaching of German in many schools down to the bare minimum." Do you agree with him there?
Yes, I quite agree to that, yes. And I think he's right. And the way he works is very intelligent. The sort of books he writes, you know, and shows it's a mirror we can look at how we speak, you know, and how funny it is.
Yeah. Okay, just before we finish, you met Angela Merkel not too long ago to talk about education issues. What did you say to her in one sentence? We're going to come back to your remedy for the situation in Germany.
The teachers should get into the center of all reforms. And she agreed to that.
Okay, we've decided that we're not going to call German politicians Führers, leaders, or a Führerin in Angela Merkel's case, but was she listening? Did you have the feeling she was listening?
She's listening, she's very intelligent, she has a lot of humor. And it was 6 hours talk, together we were 8 people. And it's strengthened my belief in her.
Okay. Now, education, as you know well, as a former headmaster, as a former school teacher, is all about tests and examinations. I'm now going to put you to the test. At the end of the show, we have a Talking Germany quiz, a quick quiz. I give you quick questions, you give me quick answers, okay? Mass or elite?
Elite.
Public or private?
Public.
Public. Mozart or Bob Dylan?
Mozart.
Mozart. He was a rebel too. 1968, same sort of thing. Revolution or nightmare?
Revolution.
Revolution. Corporal punishment, never or sometimes?
Sometimes.
English or German?
German.
I thought you might say that. The internet, a curse or an opportunity?
An opportunity.
Germany, internationally competitive, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. It's been very good talking to you, Bernhard Bueb. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed it as much as I have, come back next week. Cheers.